I'd just like to welcome everybody today on this beautiful Sunday. And we know how important the flag is to the veterans and their families. So I guess we've tied into my talking time, so I'll make it brief. I'd just like to start off with a pledge allegiance of the flag for everyone. Roseanne, can you put the flag on your screen? If not, I have a flag in my union hall. All right, if you can put me on, there we go. I'm gonna show the flag. We all stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would just like to read a quote from our from hero number 18, which I really like. It says, "Our flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of each soldier who died protecting it." So with that being said, I'd like to move on. And next we'll view a video of one of our labor activists with a beautiful voice. She's a member of APSCUF-EUP working at the PA Soldiers and Sailors Home in Erie, Selena Mingo. She will be singing the National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Next up is our first speaker, 40 plus years of roofers, 210, and Erie-Crawford CLC President Jack Lee. Jack?
This is the history of the American flag. I took some notes and did some research and learned a few things myself. On June 14th, 1777, the Continental Congress passed an act establishing an official flag for the new nation. The resolution stated, resolved that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, right in a blue field or a blue background representing a new constellation. October 3rd, 1949, President Harry S. Truman officially declared June 14th as Flag Day. The history of our flag is fascinating as that the American Republic itself, it has survived battles, inspired songs, and evolved in response to the growth of the country it represents. The following is a collection of interesting facts and customs about the American flag and how it is displayed. The origin of our first American flag is unknown. Some historians believe it was designed by New Jersey Congressman Francis Hopkinson and sewn by Philadelphia seamstress Betty Ross. The name Old Glory was given to a large 10 by 17-foot flag by its owner, William Driver, a sea captain from Massachusetts, inspiring the common nickname for all American flags. Driver's flag is said to have survived multiple attempts to deface it during the Civil War. Driver was able to fly the flag over the Tennessee State House once the war ended. The flag is primarily artifact at the National Museum of American History and has displayed in Tennessee by permission of the Smithsonian at the exhibition in 2006. Between 1777 and 1960, Congress passed several acts that changed the shape, design, and arrangement of the flag and allowed stars and stripes to be added to reflect the admission of each new state. Today, the flag consists of 13 horizontal stripes, 7 red alternating with 6 white. The stripes represent the original 13 colonies, and the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbols hardiness and valor, white symbols purity and innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. The National Museum of American History is undertaking a long-term preservation project of the enormous 1814 Garrison flag that survived 25-hour shelling at Fort Henry in Baltimore by British troops and inspired Francis Scott Key to compose the Star-Spangled Banner, often referred to by that name. The flag had become soiled and weakened over time and was removed from the museum in December of 1998. The preservation effort began in June of 1999 and continues to this day. The flag is now stored at a 10-degree angle in a special low-oxygen filtered light chamber and is periodically examined at a microscope level to detect signs of decay or damage within its individual fibers. There are a few locations where the U.S. flag is flown 24 hours a day by either presidential proclamation or by law. There are Fort McHenry National Monument and Historic Shrine, Baltimore, Maryland, and Flag House Square in Baltimore, Maryland, United States Marine Corps Memorial, Iwo Jima, Arlington, and Virginia. On the green of the town of Lexington, Massachusetts, the White House, Washington, D.C., United States Custom Ports of Entry, grounds of the National Memorial Arc in Valley Forge State Park, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. After the British bombarded, amateur poet Francis Scott Key was so inspired by the sight of the American flag still flying over Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the Star-Spangled Banner on September 14th of 1814. It officially became our national anthem in 1931. In 1892, the flag inspired James B. Upman and Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance. It was first published in a magazine called The Youth's Companion. So with that being said, happy Flag Day, and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. That was a good history lesson. And moving forward, next is Susan and Dan Martin, who is a member of IUPAT 549.
This is Melissa. She's
Okay, so
Dan and I's daughter. Dan is he works for local 549. So here's Melissa.
We salute the flag for the colors that it wears. We salute the flag for the legends that it bears. For its tales of men heroic, for its message stern and grave. We salute the flag for its challenge to the brave, for all its valiant fighting to uphold the country's creed, its gallantry in peacetime and its answer to a need. For chivalry of purpose and with grandeur not to part, we salute the flag for its great soul and its heart.
Thanks,
That's it.
Melissa. Our second speaker is retired member of APSCUF-EUP and is an activist for decades. Jim Wertz.
Well, I wish I was retired, Andy, but I'm not retired quite yet. A couple more years to go, and in all my years of teaching history, I can say that I've never had the opportunity to talk about Flag Day in class. So this was new for me. I spent a long time talking about labor history and the development of revolution around the world, but never the flag. So I think today is a great opportunity to bring all of those worlds together as we celebrate Flag Day. As Jack said so well, Jack, I think you could have taken my spot in a couple of those history classes. As Jack said, we celebrate Flag Day today in commemoration of the Continental Congress approving the design of our national flag on June 14th, 1777. We all know how eloquent the framers of the Constitution and the fathers of our country were. And so as part of their resolution for a national flag, they said that the Union, that the stripes on the flag alternate red and white, and that the Union be represented by 13 stars, which would represent a new constellation. Kind of an interesting thought at the birth of our nation. Most of us in our history classes growing up learned that it was Betsy Ross that created a flag at the request of George Washington in 1776. But a lot of historians have done a lot of work over time, and many of them now credit the flag's design, as Jack pointed out, to Francis Hopkinson, who was also the designer of the United States first coin and the Great Seal that we still see at federal events and presidential events. Since 1777, there have been 27 official versions of the flag, and most of the changes, as you all know, have been in the arrangement of those stars that have varied according to different flag makers' preferences until 1912, when it was President Taft who standardized the flag's 48 stars into 6 rows of 8. The 49th star was added to the flag in 1959, and the current version of the flag that we have dates back to July 4th, 1960, after Hawaii had become the 50th state the year before in 1959. We celebrate Flag Day now, and we probably think of it most for those of you who enjoy a day off as a result of this holiday. We try to keep the commemoration going, but it's important to note that the celebration of the flag went on long before there ever was a national Flag Day. People talking about the flag and its purpose in representing patriotism and support for our nation. So long before there was a National Flag Day, schools and towns across the United States were having celebrations of the flag. The Stony Hill School in Wabaka, Wisconsin became the site of the first formal observance of Flag Day in 1885. There was a grade school teacher at Stony Hill School, a guy by the name of Bernard Segrand, and he held the first recognized formal observance of Flag Day there at his school. Today, he's generally credited and known as the father of Flag Day. And in the 1890s, the Chicago Tribune noted that Bernard Segrand almost single-handedly established the holiday that commemorates the Stars and Stripes. And it's because this became such a passion project for him that he toured the country and gave nearly 2,200 speeches about the flag and about patriotism related to the flag. So talk about commitment. From the late 1880s on, Segran was all over the country trying to push for an annual observance of Flag Day on June 14th. He began to establish some momentum. In Philadelphia, they held their first Flag Day celebration in 1891 at the Betsy Ross House. In 1892, the New York Society of the Sons of the American Revolution started their Flag Day celebration. And the American Flag Day Association held the first public school children's celebration of Flag Day on June 14th, 1894 in Chicago. And more than 300,000 public school students throughout the Chicago area took part in that celebration. And as Pennsylvanians here in Northwest Pennsylvania, we can celebrate the fact that on June 14th, 1937, Pennsylvania became the first state to celebrate Flag Day as a state holiday. The flag for many people, and the fact that we use it as a symbol of our patriotism, also means that it comes to represent our independence. It comes to represent our revolutionary spirit, and the idea of the flag, not just the American flag, but state flags as well have come to share in this same experience. And not coincidentally, June 14th is also the date of the annual anniversary of the Bear Flag Revolt in California. And this took place on June 14th, 1846. When 33 American settlers arrested the American general who was in command in Sonoma, California. And they declared the region the Bear Flag Republic on the Pacific Ocean coast as an independent nation. Their flag was the flag that is now flown as the California flag. And it was finally adopted as the California state flag when California became the 31st state in 1850. Today, June 14th is not only National Flag Day, but also a commemoration of that Bear Flag Republic flag, with both flying prominently the United States flag and the California flag every June 14th for Californians. And for us labor historians out there, the flag came to play an important role in the 1913 Paterson silk strike in Paterson, New Jersey. It was a 5-month work stoppage from February until the end of July, where silk mill workers were calling for better quality working conditions and an 8-hour day, among other things. And it was there at the beginning of the Paterson silk strike that IBEW, Wobbly's leader, Big Bill Haywood, asserted that someday all of the world's flags would be red, the color of the working man's blood. While Bill Haywood was embracing a new vision, certainly, city leaders in Paterson, New Jersey, were so incensed by Haywood's invoking of the sacred image of the American flag being turned completely red, that they declared that Flag Day, instead of being June 14th, would be moved up and celebrated just a few weeks later in March of 1913. And they demanded that every textile mill throughout the city hang an American flag outside in opposition to the striking workers. Haywood and his men saw this as an opportunity, and it backfired. This opportunity was taken fully on, and the Paterson, New Jersey leaders backfired on when the strikers marched through the city in March of 1930, waving the American flags that they themselves had stitched, along with a banner that said, "We weave the flag, we live under the flag, we die under the flag, but damned if we'll starve under the flag." And so the American flag had become a universal symbol across partisan lines. And in 1916, President Woodrow Wilson issued a proclamation that officially established June 14th as Flag Day across the country. Congress followed up in 1949 by enacting a statute that officially recognized Flag Day. Flag Day, as many of you know, is not an official federal holiday, but it is considered a national observance, a national holiday in that way. And while the statute leaves it to the president's discretion to proclaim its observance, every president since Woodrow Wilson has done so. And here we are on June 14th of a presidential election year, thinking about this history of Flag Day and remembering all that is behind it. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak on this occasion.
Thanks, Jim. Very, very educational. I'm learning a lot today. Then next will be Will Rennebeck, a member of Insulators Local 2, who will introduce daughter Adeline. She will read the colors.
This is Will Rennebeck from Local 2, and up next is my daughter Adeline reciting the poem Colors.
Hello, I am Adeline Rennebeck, and I am reading The Colors by Lauren Hedrick. Aren't the colors bright and pretty that our own flag wears? The red is bright as big balloons you see at county fairs. The white is like the lovely snow that falls in dark December and makes a scene of fairyland you will always remember. The blue is like the summer sky in the rosy month of June. Do you wonder when I see our flag, I burst right into a tune.
Third speaker is a veteran, labor activist, and our former NWPA ALF legislative director, Nick Johanningmeier. Nick?
Hi all, thanks so much for having me. As Andy mentioned, I'm a veteran, and it was sort of fitting that I was chosen to speak about the tribute to those who gave us the right to fly the flag. So I guess really the first question that I would ask, and Roseanne has sharing off, so you won't be able to see my slides, but I'll get right to the crux, I guess, really, which, if we don't take this time to address, what is currently happening in our nation, every chance we get, then we're really missing out. Because again, as a veteran, I took an oath and swore to defend the ideal and the symbolism of the flag. And it pains me that those colors are faded to some. We've seen knees taken during the anthem, and that hurts. Again, having sworn an oath, and all we have is our word, the actual taking of the knee is very difficult for people like me. But it doesn't mean that we don't recognize that the flag is not representing what it's supposed to all, and that our efforts to make it that way have fallen short. So I want to take that point to say that it's not who necessarily gives us the right to fly that flag. Again, as a veteran, we're sworn to defend that from foreign hosts. So, again, it's a right that people have. It's not given to them by, anyone in the military or a veteran. We have Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and coincidentally, we'll have the July 4th coming up very soon, which is really the start of it all. As Jim pointed out, it really starts in 1976 with the Declaration of Independence. Interestingly enough, as late as January of 1976, many colonialists, colonists, really weren't, they were a little content with the way things were and weren't sure that, being separated or being independent from the crown was the smart decision. But King George, throughout the next few months, continued to compound the improprieties that he had been forcing upon the colonialists. So that's why many started working on the Declaration of Independence. And as many of us know, and as Jim stated, Thomas Jefferson gets a ton of the credit. But again, as I said, early in 1976, it wasn't a really something that's thought about by the majority. And excuse me, it took people like George Adams, who was a delegate out of Virginia, who had crafted language for the Virginia Independent Declaration of Rights. So the language had been out there before the Declaration of Independence was actually adopted. And what really started to prompt it were folks like Thomas Paine, who had a pamphlet called Common Sense that started to really circulate and talk about the improprieties of King George and what independence would mean. So as this really started to take hold, the, again, Second Colonial Congress, as Jim noted, got together and said, you know, we need to do something here. We're battling, we're having a fight for independence that maybe some just aren't behind. And as a matter of fact, many of our wartime colonials, our revolutionaries, were flying flags of states, or some even with adopted versions of what the Union Jack was out of Great Britain. So when we adopted the Declaration of Independence, which again, as I stated, was Thomas Jefferson gets the credit because he was actually the secretary. And you know, I coming from the ALF there and having secretary positions open on many of the labor boards, you know, I always said, and this proves that it is such an important position, because during the meeting, Thomas Jefferson was taking notes, and someone said, you know what, we do need something. I'm going to assign these 5 people to be the committee that was going to form language of the Declaration of Independence. And Thomas Jefferson, because he wrote most of what everyone was saying and all the ideas down, became known as the person who wrote the Declaration of Independence. But it was a joint effort, and really he took a lot of the language that George Adams used in Virginia and used it for our national declaration because it was very eloquently written. Now, George Adams had a tendency to really draw things out. So some of the long phrases that Adams used, Jefferson actually took the liberty of shortening to sometimes a word. So again, he gets the credit for the majority of it. But again, the important part that we want to talk about, as it pertains to you know, the circumstances that we're currently in, because it's not new. The Declaration was written and it gave us, again, that independence and freedom, and we needed a symbolic adaptation of all of those ideals. And so shortly after the Declaration was written, which reads, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." So again, these were ideals that needed to be displayed and needed to be brought, needed all 13 colonies to be brought under that umbrella. And a flag was one of the best ways to do that. So it was commissioned immediately. And again, as Jim noted, and actually I think Jack initially said it took a year, and in 1977, the design was commissioned. And again, there were multiple designs after that until it reached what we have today. So George Adams, again, you know, recognized something when the Constitution was written, because the Declaration wasn't quite enough. And I'm going to talk about these three documents that I think really embody what all those ideals are about, and then talk about the flag as the protective covering of the three documents. So once we've declared our independence, now we needed some rhyme and reason and some order in government. And so the Constitution was written. Shortly, almost immediately after the Constitution was adopted, George Adams wished and realized that it should have been preceded with the rights of the people. And he looked back and wished that the Bill of Rights, our first 10 amendments, had been a preface to the Constitution. Unfortunately, it was too late for that, but it didn't take long. Excuse me. Really only about 4 more years after the Constitution was written to adopt the Bill of Rights. So these were then, they said, okay, this is the way government's going to run, but this isn't something that brings out that patriotism, that brings out the colors of those flags, that reflects that for the people. So the Bill of Rights was written. But it wasn't too long after that until we started to realize that, those flags weren't as vivid and bright for some others. So by the time the 13th Amendment came out, which wasn't until 1865 that the 13th Amendment that ended slavery, where some of those people now brought into the fold and could recognize some of the benefits of the ideals represented by the flag. And it really wasn't until another 5 years until the 15th Amendment came about, which allowed blacks to vote. And then, believe it or not, another 50 years until the 15th Amendment came around, and women were included and could see the vivid color of those of the ideals represented by the flag. So, these things weren't readily available to everyone immediately, and it's a shame because we again are still working out a lot of those kinks. Believe it or not, women didn't get the right to vote until 4 years after, as Jack mentioned, Wilson declared National Flag Day. So we had a National Flag Day before everyone in the nation was included in the ideals that were represented by the flag. So it's not too far-fetched to believe that we still have work to do. And it goes unrecognized by some. But again, as a veteran, we want those flags to be vivid and colorful and the same for everyone in the country. So again, it's not necessarily who gives us the right, but what, and it's those three documents. If we wanted to really look at who, it would be the colonialists that revolutionized. It would be the people who stood up. It would be the folks who stood up against slavery, the folks who rallied and walked for black voting rights, and the folks who stood behind women when it was their time. All of those people give us the right to fly the flag. We give each other the right to fly the flag. So that was kind of my take on the tribute to the flag, and I hope everyone will get a little something out of it. Thank you very much.
My name is Terry Baker, and I'm going to introduce Elijah Baker to read The Paraders by Lenore Hetrick.
We love our flag and we love our land. We love to hear America played by the band. And you won't find us the least bit afraid to march right along with the big parade. We'll be up in front for all to see, and our marching will be just what it should be. We'll do our best in our own small way to honor our country's flag today. So right foot and left foot, off we go. We hope that we make a very good show. Happy Flag Day.
fourth speaker is a decade-long labor activist and leader who leads by example, and he's a business manager of IBEW 712, Frank Telesz.
All right, Andy, it's a pleasure to speak on Flag Day, and I thank yourself and Roseanne and everybody who put this on. It's been a very good program. To those who all served for the American citizens, let's start out by, no doubt our military. First of all, we need to thank them for our democracy, our safety, and our freedom. And, just recently, of course, we're all aware of the pandemic that we've had, and it has to, large tribute needs to go out to our frontline workers. And we can just go on, but if I miss somebody, I apologize, but I'd like to go down through a list of people that just, when you're sitting back thinking who you want to thank. The frontline workers, are doctors and nurses and the complete hospital staffs did such a fantastic job with, 212 million people confirmed in this pandemic, and we actually shut the country down. And my heart goes out and condolences to the 117,000 people who have passed away. Our rescue workers and the protection people, the police, the fire department, the EMTs, and everybody working more than 24/7 and putting all these hours in. We need to go as far as our American farmers, our men and women working at the food processing plants to keep the American people with food in their homes. The building trades, the utility workers, the water, electric, sanitation workers. All these people kept our lights on and our water going. Any issues, the building trades kept the powerhouses and everything up and running. My hat's off to all them people. The transportation workers, the truckers that hauled all the supplies, whether from our borders or from our plants, to all the people. The grocery store workers, the gas station workers, the drug stores, all these frontline workers that worked every day and put their lives on the line and went to work while this pandemic continued. Our teachers, our professors, our schools were closed and our colleges were closed, and it kept our students moving forward with their education. It's just amazing what we can do. Our men and women working in all the factories, the majority of our factories did not close. I mean, they worked at maybe not at capacity due to might have been supply and demand, but a lot of our factory workers continued to work, and my hat's off to all of them. One thing that I want to, is everybody spoke about the flag, and they spoke very elegant about the Flag Day, but also there's some things that the flag, I think, the flag represents the cause of human justice. The flag represents the cause of human rights and human security. Our flag will always refuse to condone or tolerate dictatorship or the oppressions of any kind. The flag will oppose communism, Nazism, and any other ism. We're very proud of what the flag represents, and the flag represents all of the American people. It does not matter what the color of your skin is, or where you came from, or what religion you are. The flag has respect for every person who lives in the United States. And I again want to thank everybody letting me speak about the flag. It's a pleasure to represent the labor movement, and it's a pleasure to be part of the ALF. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it.
I know my flag is a good flag because it represents my land. The best land in the world. So proudly here I stand, with a smile on my face and the dear flag in hand.
Our next speaker is a member of PSEA Erie and our representative from HD2, Bob Merski.
Just wanted to thank everyone for being here today, being a part of this. I wanted to speak a little bit about flag etiquette and how we properly display the flag and dispose of the flag. We display the flag from sunrise to sunset on buildings and on stationary flag staffs that are in the open. When a patriotic effect is desired, the flag may be displayed for 24 hours a day if properly illuminated during the hours of darkness. When placed on a single staff or a lanyard, place the U.S. flag above all other flags. When the flag is displayed in a row, the U.S. flag goes on the observer's left. Flags of other nations or other states are shown at the same height, or state and local flags are traditionally flown lower. Flags from other nations are flown at the same height. When used during a marching ceremony or a parade with other flags, the U.S. flag will be to the observer's left. On special days, the flag may be flown at half staff. Memorial Day, it is flown at half staff until noon and then raised. When flown at half staff, it should be first hoisted to the peak and then lowered down. And the American flag should never touch the ground, the floor, or any water beneath it. The American flag should never be displayed upside down, except as a signal of dire distress in instances of extreme danger to life or property, according to the U.S. Flag Code. The American flag should never be used as a receptacle for holding or delivering something. It should not be used as a covering for a ceiling or any advertising purposes. And when the flag is no longer fit for display, for example, it has become too worn or too damaged, it should be destroyed in a dignified way, preferably by burning, according to the U.S. Flag Code. And with that, I'd like to talk a little bit about properly disposing of our flag. There are 5 options for retiring your flag. You can donate your tattered flag to someplace like the American Legion, the VFW. We also accept them at our office at 3901 Liberty and at our satellite office at the Summit Township Municipal Building, where they will be properly disposed of by the Boy Scouts. There's also with the Boy Scouts, they do a ceremonial flag burning, so does the American Legion. You can also bury your own flag, and there is also the option of shredding. Once a flag is cut up, it's technically not an American flag anymore, meaning you can throw it away without being disrespectful. This is usually done by submitting it to a company for that shredding. And it's very respectful to replace your worn out flag and make sure that we keep the flag flying clean and crisp. And if you're going to fly an outdoor flag, please make sure it's an all-weather flag, nylon flag, not a cloth flag. And I want to thank you all for participating in this Flag Day ceremony, and I want to thank Roseanne in particular for inviting me to speak about flag etiquette. As I said before, if you have any worn flags, we will gladly take them for you, and we will make sure that they get disposed of properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Before I close the ceremony, Roseanne, would you like to say a few words too as well?
Thank them all for their participation, whether they were one of our speakers here today that we got to hear, or whether they were someone who worked behind the scenes who helped make this all possible.
All right, everybody. Again, I'd like to thank Roseanne and everyone that participated today. And one thing I'd like to say is we created a Flag Day 2020 activity book. With that was provided by www.woojunior.com. The activity book includes dot to dots, coloring pages, word search, word scramble, secret codes, pictures, and a picture page to print on cardstock, make pinwheels, poems, and all the topics of Flag Day and patriotism. It's available on our website, and it's on our events calendar at the bottom of this event. We encourage the children to post their completed pages or projects on Facebook with the hashtag Flag Day 2020. This event was also recorded so that we may share this on our website for those who could not join us today. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'd like to thank everyone again. Thanks, everybody.